Hi everybody, it's Paul Harris with Global Recruiters here in sunny California. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. As you may know, I run an executive search firm that specializes exclusively in the telecom sector with a specific niche of wireless infrastructure. And a little bit ago, I spent a whole week in Las Vegas at a couple of back-to-back trade shows, CCA and CTIA. In case you didn't make it, I wanted to give you a real quick download of kind of the highlights from my perspective. So CCA, so this is Competitive Carriers Association. These are the more, smaller, rural, regional, tier 2, tier 3 type of wireless carriers across the nation. Plus, oh by the way, both Sprint and T-Mobile. So you might be saying, well, Paul, that doesn't make any sense that two out of the big four would be in that group, which is kind of weird for me as well. So as I talked to different people, I came up with three different reasons why maybe this is the case. So number one is maybe that Sprint and T-Mobile feel like the rest of the guys in that room that they're fighting against the big two, so they needed to join CCA. So that was number one. Number two is rumors have it that they joined CCA to be able to maybe soften up the regulators as they were trying to push towards their merger, which didn't happen. So that's an incredibly moot point at this juncture. I think the real reason is that they've formed a lot of roaming partnerships with these tier 2, tier 3 type of wireless carriers, which is saving them time, money, etc. on the build out of their system. For example, one of the most recent articles that I read said that Sprint had saved, so they've got about 27 partnerships, roaming partnerships, and they've saved a total of about $1.7 billion by forming roaming relationships and not paying AT&T and Verizon instead. So that's probably the big reason. So CCA in general, great show. The president of CCA, Steve Barry, put on a really, really good show. It was a great meeting. One of the highlights was the FCC chairman, Tom Wheeler, showed up, and he's obviously buddies with Steve. They've known each other for years and years, and they did kind of a fireside chat type of thing, and kind of good-natured busting of each other's chops and whatnot. So it was really fun to see those two guys on stage. But Chairman Wheeler basically was talking about the two different auctions coming up. So the 600 megahertz spectrum auction and the AWS-3 auction. And so a lot of the talk was about the broadcast spectrum basically being repurposed for the wireless guys, and Chairman Wheeler was basically saying, hey everybody, we encourage you to get here and show up for the auction and participate. So that was one of the main reasons why he was there, to encourage people to do that. Other things that was talked about was, there's 50 rural carriers now that are deploying LTE. We had a lot of talk about the spending spike after the merger between Sprint and T-Mobile was squashed. They're going crazy with their spending, right? Because they are now competitors again, as opposed to joining forces, and they got to catch up with AT&T and Verizon. So they're aggressively building out their system. So a lot of talk about that. So that was a great meeting, CCA. It was also overlapping to a certain extent, so you kind of had to decide which one you were going to go to between CCA and CTIA. But CTIA also happened virtually at the same time with a little bit of overlap. And you guys know about CTIA, obviously, right? The granddaddy of all trade shows. So 1,100 exhibitors, 40,000 people, 1,000 analysts and media type of people, which the place was packed, which was, by the way, a far cry from, if you maybe remember when I went to a DAS and Small Cell Congress and we got a private tour of the Las Vegas Sands Expo to see their indoor DAS system, and it was totally empty. And to see the juxtaposition between it being a totally empty, giant room, and then seeing it packed as we're used to seeing it when we go to CTIA. So it was great to see a big meeting packed. Some of the highlights for me were the keynote speakers. Start off with Dan Mead, the CEO from Verizon. He spoke. Meredith Atwell-Baker, who is the new president CEO of CTIA, and she talked about in the past 10 years, the companies have spent $260 billion. So in the past 10 years, $260 billion on wireless infrastructure investment. No wonder we're having so much fun in this business right now. So that was great hearing her speak. FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler was there. He spent a lot of time kind of reiterating what he did at CCA, and then he also talked, this is very interesting, about how the FCC and DOJ have made it crystal clear, I think it is crystal clear at this point, that they are not fans of M&A activity, as by evidenced by the last two suggested mergers over the past year, both of them getting the squash and the thumbs down. And what he cited was, hey, you guys, after we squashed this last one, and that wasn't his word, squashing, by the way, that was my words. After we turned down these last two, you've seen the services increase, you've seen the rate plans go down, so it's good for the consumer. So I think it's clear to everyone. I don't think we're going to be hearing a lot about the big four trying to join forces anymore. Also talked about that there's 120 million LTE subscribers now, with planned growth in the near future to go to 350 million. So it's just wonderfully a great time for us. Here's another one. You got Ralph De La Vega and Glenn Laurie from AT&T got up there, and their session was on the connected car. We've heard a lot about the connected car. So they had up there on the stage with them people from Ericsson, people from Tesla, people from OnStar, and one of the quotes was, by 2017, 60% of all the cars that are going to be coming off the showroom floor, so to speak, are going to have a cellular module in them. And they announced that GM currently has 33 models that are connected. And so people are starting to talk about these cars as a smartphone on four wheels. So that was a great session that they did. Another kind of offshoot was, at the same time we're up there in front of, they're up there in front of this giant crowd, Tim Cook from Apple is doing his big announcement in Cupertino. So we kind of cut away and watched a video of him talking about the iPhone 6 Plus launch and Apple iPay and the Apple iWatch, and just watching this whole video as we took a break to watch that. That's how important Apple is in our world, as you guys know. Couple more things real quickly in terms of in my world and maybe your guys' world that were thrilling to me. Was number one was a guy named Berj Ivazian. He's the chairman and conference chair for 4G World. So 4G World at inside CTA was a whole bunch of different breakout sessions, which Berj, if you don't know him, with the Yankee group for years. And he did a great job on all these different breakouts, talking about monetizing the network investment in new services, enhancing network performance, how to keep pace with the demand for mobile broadband, etc. A whole bunch of stuff as well. You can Google Berj as well. He did a phenomenal job. Another highlight for me, as always, when we get these tower guys together, one of my favorites for sure is a guy named Mark Gonzi, who works for, he now runs Vertical Bridge, but it used to be Global Tower Partners, who we sold Global Tower Partners a couple of years ago to ATC, American Tower, for whatever it was, $4.8 billion. Anyway, so a lot of the talk, you guys, you know this, if you've been to PCIA the past 3 years, it's all about small cell, DAS, small cell. And what the talk about that was small cell is very, very important for the kind of infill as we're doing in the macro world as a part of the HetNet. But what he was talking about was, but small cells are kind of in the second inning of a ninth inning game, and his quote was, it's still a macro world. And he talked about there's going to be 90,000 cell sites built in the next 5 years. He talked about 2014 was good, 2015 is going to be even better, and it's going to be great between, all the way through 2018. And from us recruiting in the wireless infrastructure world, oh boy, can we guarantee that, right? 2013 was great, 2014 was ridiculously great, and if we do half as good as we did in 2015, as we did in 2014, we're going to be thrilled. So anyways, it was great to hear him talk, as always. We talk about in that session about the challenges, like everything moving to the top of the tower, the RRUs, etc. They're talking about one of the analogies was putting a VW bug on top of a popsicle stick. So in other words, as you move up the tower, things are getting heavier, and so there's a lot of talk about reinforcement of the towers, etc. That was very interesting, I thought. And then there was a lot of talk about NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard, and how you can use stealth solutions to, conceal all these stuff like that. So anyways, that was the main thing that happened between CCA and CTIA from my viewpoint. Of course, there's many other stuff that wasn't kind of wireless infrastructure related that happened, but you can Google that and get what's important to you. Other things, a lot of talk about net neutrality, a lot of talk about convergence of 3G and 4G and LTE and Wi-Fi and HetNets and Internet of Things and M2M, etc. So that was all very thrilling for me. For you football fans, Marshall Falk, Emmett Smith, he had you might want to Google his company and what they do. Very, very cool stuff. So that was it, you guys. Next time I'm going to be talking to you, I'm going to be coming back from South Africa, where I'm going to be attending a meeting with the top 250 tower owners in these emerging markets. And this is very interesting because obviously you guys know what's happening. The emerging markets are 5, 10, 15 years behind where we are in the United States, and we know, as we say, we've seen this movie, we know how it ends, and there's a lot of growth going on in these emerging markets, and I'm going to be checking into that even further, and I'll be looking forward to telling you about that when I get back. Thanks everybody, great to talk to you, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.